Yo guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I'm going to be discussing Jonathan Drouin, what happened to the former 3rd overall pick's NHL career, and where he is right now in 2020. Now, Jonathan Drouin has been one of the most interesting players across the entire NHL in the past few years. Being drafted 3rd overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2013, to being traded to the Montreal Canadiens just years later, and with an injury-riddled, nothing to show for it season, might have his future in Montreal pretty uncertain right now. So what happened to this former 3rd overall pick to get up to this point, and what is next for Drouin and the Montreal Canadiens? Watch till the end for all my opinions and Drouin's story, and of course hit that subscribe button if you're new. Now, excuse my terrible pronunciation of Drouin today because I have been battling some allergies in the past day and it has not been all too fun, but we have a topic to discuss, that being Jonathan Drouin and what happened to his NHL career. Now, to answer that exact question, we need to go back all the way to his QMJHL days before he was even drafted. His first QMJHL season back in 2012 was pretty productive. 33 games played in the regular season and 29 points, and in the playoffs that would make a really big impact. In 17 games with the Halifax Mooseheads, he had 26 points. Very, very good for the first year in the QMJHL. And after that, Drouin was looked at as one of the top prospects for that 2013 NHL draft. And of course, ended up being selected 3rd overall in 2013. Now, the hype at that point for Drouin was very deserved. In his draft year in the QMJHL, he had 49 games played, 41 goals, and 105 points. In the playoffs, he was able to put up 35 points in 17 games, and then just would continue raking from there. Of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning would select him with the 3rd overall pick, just after Alexander Barkov and Nathan MacKinnon, and the rest would be history. But he would continue to have a great QMJHL season, even though he was expected to be in the NHL after he was drafted. He was sent back down to the QMJHL, but still was fantastic. In 46 games, got 108 points, and in the playoffs, got 41 points in 16 games. Not bad whatsoever. Now, the offensive skill was obviously apparent when it came to Drouin, but as Nathan MacKinnon and Alexander Barkov started making their NHL presences known, Jonathan Drouin was expected to do the same. And in his rookie season with Tampa, definitely did do that. In 70 games, had 4 goals, 28 assists for 32 points, and ended up playing 6 playoff games. Also played a couple of games in the AHL, got 3 points overall. Not a bad season for Drouin, especially coming off such a great QMJHL year, and he was expected to do, if not that, but more next season and full-time with Tampa Bay. But then we go on to the 2015-2016 season, and this is where the kind of complications start to come into play with his career. He ended up playing 21 games that year compared to 70, not that much, gaining 4 goals, 6 assists, and 10 points, and ended up being sent down to the AHL, playing 17 games Syracuse, got 11 goals, 2 assists for 13 points. But an incident happened in January of 2016 where Jonathan Drouin just said, enough, I'm not even going to play in the AHL, and he just did not report to the game against the Toronto Marlies. The Tampa Bay Lightning gave him a suspension. Everything was kind of weird. We didn't know what that was going to end up being, but he ended up playing in the playoffs for Tampa that year, 17 games played and 14 points. That kind of shut up all the kind of questions surrounding that incident, but that situation still lingered in Tampa Bay and might have been one of the main reasons why he was traded in the first place. But the stats he was putting up in the playoffs in the next year were good enough to where it didn't really matter that much. In the 2016-2017 season, we'd see Drouin play over 70 games, get 53 points, and get his career high up to that point, 21 goals, 32 assists for Tampa. That year was a big one, and even though there were some complications, there's still some concerns over what his future might have been with Tampa. At that point, it was pretty safe to say that he was being a big part of that team. He was getting his most ice time. He got the most ice time he's ever gotten in the NHL that year at the Tampa Bay Lightning, getting over 17 minutes per game on average. He was a big part of that Tampa team, and then the trade happened. And after this insane 2017 season where he did so well, getting 53 points and racking up ice time, even though he looked to be a bigger part of that Tampa team going forward, the trade ended up happening. On June 15th, 2017, Jonathan Drouin was traded to the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Mikhail Sergachev. And there were some big questions surrounding this trade. What happened with the locker room situation? What happened with Drouin's connection to Tampa? Was there a little bit of a fight there? What might have happened happened, but the fact was that he was traded to Montreal, and that was set in stone. As he was traded to Montreal before he even played a game with the Habs, he signed a big contract, over $5 million for 6 years. That was a big thing, and at least when it came to Tampa, there were some doubts there, but for the Montreal Canadiens, when he was signed, when he was traded, there was no doubt that he was going to be a big part of that Montreal team going forward. And at first, he did have a pretty strong connection with Montreal, at least when it came to the potential he might have had there. In his first season in 2018, he got 46 points, 13 goals, 33 assists in 77 games. Obviously, there was a little bit of a dip offensively, but there weren't as many offensive options on Montreal than the Tampa Bay Lightning, so it was excused at first. Then we go to the 2019 season where there was, again, not a dip, but a rise a little bit. You had 53 points in 81 games, almost a full season, getting 18 goals and 35 assists. But even though he did tie his or not his average, but his career high in points, there were still some concerns over his future of Montreal, because as a third overall pick, even though 53 points is good, they still expected more from him at that point to be a main leader of that team. And it's kind of been a problem through his NHL career that Jonathan Drouin is a very solid offensive guy when it comes to getting points, but in terms of driving play and putting the team on his back, he simply has not been able to do that. Even in the 53-point season, he was not that kind of player. He was playing with great guys like Max Domi and Brendan Gallagher, who were having great years, and Drouin was a big part of that offensive team, but at the same time on 5-on-5, it was just not the same, relying on the power play a lot to get his points. And then we go on to this season for Drouin, which was pretty much a disaster in all areas. He played 27 games, of course, with an injury, was out for a long stretch of that season, getting 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points. Obviously, when he did play, he was very solid and still got points, but at the same time, he just was not healthy, and that's the thing that could linger into next season, potentially. But at the same time, offensively, still not bad whatsoever. But this is a player that was expected more from. He has a $5.5 million cap hit, the most of any forward on the Montreal Canadiens, although that definitely will change with Max Domi being an RFA this year. Drouin was expected to be a main leader on that offense, and even though you can't blame him for getting injured, throughout his time in Montreal, he hasn't been that kind of player who can be a #1 center. He was tried out at center, it did not work, now he's playing in the wing, and one of the main reasons why he was traded to Montreal in the first place was to be an offensive star center, which is not what he's at this point. Now, throughout Jonathan Drouin's career, it has been filled with expectations. Even going back to his QMJHL days, he got more than 100 points in his draft year. That doesn't usually happen for a lot of prospects. That kind of production warrants a lot of expectations, and that's what he got. You might look at a franchise like Tampa Bay and think, oh, they don't have the biggest market in the world, but they still have a ton of fans, definitely one of the more underrated fan bases, and that kind of franchise, which demands so much success from such a young player, can wear and tear on a guy like that. Then you get traded to the Montreal Canadiens. You're the hometown kid, you grew up a Habs fan, and you're supposed to be the #1 center of the future. And now at this point in 2020, he's on the left wing, not even playing center anymore, and only played 27 games last year. Even though it was due to injury, the expectations for him was to be a great, almost elite talent. And going back to the 3rd overall pick, going back to the 2013 NHL draft, Seth Jones was drafted 4th overall. That's the type of player that Drouin was supposed to be, that elite leader in a group, and both in Tampa and Montreal, he has just not been able to do that. And I think one of the main reasons why Drouin hasn't lived up to that expectations is because of the expectations. We just look at the situation he's in right now. He was supposed to be a #1 center. He's a hometown kid, top 3 pick in an NHL draft, and now with the Montreal Canadiens. You can't get more bigger and situational than that. And in my opinion, I still think Drouin, when he is healthy, is a very solid NHL player. I would keep him definitely on my middle 6 if I had the choice. But he's not a player that is worthy of a 3rd overall pick right now. He is not a player that is worthy of first-line time in my opinion, and I don't think ever will be. Especially when it comes to being a potential first-line center, that has been thrown out the window. Now Max Domi has pretty much gotten that spot. Same thing with Philip Deneau, kind of switching that time. But he was expected to be that guy. He was expected to be that guy that led that group. And even though Montreal offensively already has those guys now, Thankfully, Jonathan Drouin was supposed to come in and be that guy eventually. He had the elite potential, he had the amazing offensive skill set, and both in Tampa Bay and Montreal, even though he has put up points, that's a player that does not drive play all that much, and especially even strength, is not the player that he was supposed to be. But that's the type of player that I still think can be a useful middle six forward. At the same time, he was drafted 3rd overall, he was expected to be an elite player, and that's just not what he is. That's just a plain fact. He's not a play driver, but a more power play specialist that can rack up points when you need it, and not too consistently either. But for Drouin, again, I think he's still a solid player. Offensively, he puts up points when healthy, and that's pretty much what he is. If you're expecting this elite play driving amazing center, Drouin is just not going to be able to do that. But with the situation he's in, if he can sit into a middle six role, I think that's pretty much fine for him. I think he might get 60 points eventually because he is in his prime right now. So we'll have to wait and see. But for me personally, as a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, seeing how it's gone in Montreal and seeing how Sergachev played so well for Tampa this year, that trade not looking too good, and that 3rd overall pick is not looking great either. But that'll be it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Of course, with this video, I need to hear y'all's thoughts down in those comments down below. Let me know what you think about Jonathan Drouin, what you think his future holds in store, and what you think about his NHL career thus far. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Comment down below all your thoughts and share this video with your friends. Get the Drouin video out there, boys. And click on this card right here to watch all of my predictions and picks videos right in one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you guys next video or stream. Goodbye.